what's up everybody? If you don't want spoilers, then you have to click away because I definitely want to talk about this movie in detail to some extent. So yeah, spoilers are kind of unavoidable. I want to begin by saying I think that this is the wrong approach. So why did I even put that as a thumbnail? Specifically to get the people who are combative about these things and really kind of have a conversation with them specifically. Just because I do think that approach of putting things side by side, you know, with the original and the new, is not always the best way to engage with the material. I really do think that we can lose the value of something new by always doing that. Like, we don't have to use what we used to like as like such a prominent criteria. So in this video, I'm really gonna just judge the Wonka movie on its own merits and really find what I liked about it, because honestly I really did enjoy it. It was such a fun movie. So let's begin. One thing that I really enjoyed about this film was the performances. Honestly, Timothée Chalamet, like, I'm not a big fan of Timothée Chalamet. I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a hater. I just am. But I really liked his performance. There was just something about his performance that was just so much fun to see. Like, he just has the right energy. is really the way I can only explain it. Like, he kind of moves very like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like he's always kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but he's quick with his movements. Like, he has the energy, and he brings this liveliness to every scene that he's in, and I absolutely loved it. A very charming character, and I was really happy to see that. Another performance that I really liked was Keegan-Michael, I think. I'm really bad with names, but I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. Keegan-Michael. Key. So great. Honestly, when I was first going to watch this movie, I had no idea that he was in it at all. So it was kind of a surprise that he was there. But I was really happy that he was, just because he's definitely, oh my god. He's just one of those actors. Like, he's got it. I mean, I'm not gonna say, you know, natural born talent. I don't like when people say that about anybody, really. Like, it's very rare that someone is just born with something, you know. The skills are refined over time, and you know, my point is, I don't want to undermine his expertise, you know. I don't want to undermine the amount of years he probably put into his craft. That's kind of a side note. Really though, amazing. I loved him so much in this movie. I specifically liked, for a side character, or a minor character or whatever, very interesting. Like, he had like a development in his character arc. I mean, it just sounds so ridiculous. It's so funny. Like, basically, he starts off as this cop who's trying to do the right thing. Like, he's not gonna get rid of Wanka just because like the bigger guys want him out. You know, they're afraid of competition or whatever. But he gives up when they're like, "We'll offer you this amount of chocolate," and they're like, "Okay." And it's just so funny. Like, even that little instance of, like, you know, that is a character arc being developed. And if you're not familiar with the character arc, it's just basically how a character changes throughout the film. And yeah, that first move, I'm like, okay, that was interesting. Like, he could have just been the corrupt cop on their side, but they chose to make it a little bit more nuanced than that. And I really liked it. I mean, nuanced is kind of a high praise there. It's not that complicated. It's not like we saw like a mental turmoil going on. But either way, there's a change in there, and I loved it so much. And throughout the film, it's so dumb but so funny. He does a really good job at it. Like, he gets bigger throughout the movie because he's eating more and more chocolate. Yeah, it's just so funny. Like, because he's kind of like incompetent as well, and like really struggling to find like Wanka or whatever and like chase after him. It's just so good. Like, yeah, I don't know. I was really happy that he was in this movie. Great performance by him. And other thing, and this is kind of broad, but one thing that I really loved about this movie was kind of the whimsical elements at play. Like, I really enjoyed how multiple different types of chocolate had different powers and stuff like that. I love that so much. Like, it's just so hard to like find an element and make it feel grounded into the world. But that really helped. It just made sense when Wonka was saying that he felt like he was a magician in some sense. Because yeah, there really was magic in the work that he was doing. And I thought that was great. And to add to that whimsical element, one thing that they did really well was the whole musicals, right? I won't say all of them were that brilliant, but there's definitely one that I really loved because it tied into the story, and there's like the element of like catch me if you can kind of thing, the whole like what they usually call it, like cat and mouse kind of aspect, right? There's basically this whole scene where Wonka is distributing his candy to like new customers, trying to get people engaged with it, but in doing so he's also running away from the police, and it's brilliant. You know, I loved how, I don't know, something about that's really hard, like getting the choreography correct for stuff like that has to be very fine-tuned, and they did a great job. Like, it felt, I don't know, it definitely just felt right, and I really did admire it so much. It was probably one of my favorite like musicals in that aspect. It was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, but it was really just a great delight to see them like having these great displays, and then like, oh, they're gone because they go like in the sewers and stuff like that. It was really smart and well done. And to really ground those whimsical elements, I feel like one thing that they did really, really well was make it feel like these things are actually happening. Like, that's kind of like an essence of magic, right? Like, you know, obviously there's some trickery going on, but it just feels real. Like, I don't know, like last year, it was this year or last year? I think it was this year. I went to Vegas and I saw David Copperfield, and he does this whole thing where he's moving the UFO in the building and stuff like that. And the whole time I was really looking for the wires. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. Like, you can't just do that. I couldn't see anything. And it was just really impressive because it made it feel like it was actually happening, and I really liked that. And I feel like Wanka does a similar thing where it's like, man, this feels like it's really right there. Like, it's nonsense. Like, that's not something that can happen, but it looks really cool. Like, visually, it was very impressive and stunning. And I really was happy about that. Like, there's specifically, like, the way he makes his candy, like, he kind of does it right in front of people. And you see all these bottles and other elements that are at play here. And it's really just well done. I think at one point he shows like a bottle with like lightning inside of it, and it just looks like there's literally lightning in there. And that just did so much for my enjoyment of the movie. There's something similar with the whole Oompa Loompa in this film. That skin tone and those dimensions that they're working with are pretty difficult to make them feel realistic. But they did, and it was so cool just because, yeah, again, when it feels grounded into reality, it just elevates that whimsical, you know, charming element. And yeah, they did a really good job. I was really happy about it. Like, obviously there's so much, I don't know, maybe like CGI or whatever, effects, whatever. And yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. It was probably one of my more favorite aspects of the movie, where I definitely felt like the visuals were always stunning. The last few things though, I feel like I have to knock a few points off of like how much I liked it. It relates more to the ending. There are two things that I think are wrong about the ending. One, it feels disingenuous, that whole connection. Like, I forget the character's name. I'll put her on the screen. And she's like an orphan, doesn't know her mother, blah blah, but they get reunited at the end, and it's beautiful. It's a touching moment. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, on the surface, it makes sense. On the surface, we're like, oh yeah, of course, you know, they never got to meet each other. How beautiful, right? But realistically, they're still strangers. So that like great bond that they have right when they meet each other, like they hold each other and they're like, reunited. But like they don't really know each other, right? And so to me, I felt like that moment kind of fell flat. and really doesn't reflect reality. Like most, well, I have to do some more research on this, but from what I've heard, right, it's not common for orphans to want to even meet their parents. Like usually they have a new family or whatever, and they obviously feel much closer with that family. So meeting their parents is usually not that big of a deal. That's not to say that it's never a big deal. That would be ridiculous for me to say. But it doesn't always seem to be the main thing that happens. And I feel like movies take advantage of that idea where it's like, yeah, of course they'll be happy. Like, no, I don't think that's usually the case. Relationships are much more nuanced than that. Like one final criticism about the ending, there's no way. Like, there's just, the film basically suggests that defeating the rich, I'm about to get really analytical here, whatever. The rich are super easy to defeat, you know, you just need like that perseverance and be on the right side of things, blah, 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 blah. Is that true? On God? Like, are we being serious here? I know it's like it's supposed to be a fun movie and lighthearted, but that message just really bothered me because I know that's not true. Like, if anything, we know that companies are unethical, that they have their unethical means of getting their profits, of really just doing it. Anything, like when it comes to most of their achievements, it's because they're unethical in some way. Like, that's just kind of how it is. And if there is a law or something that's about to affect them in some way, they usually have the power to change it or to work alongside it in such a way that it's not technically illegal. So the fact that we had this happy endings of like the rich people or like the people in power or whatever are kind of set aside and you know, taken care of, I don't know, that just seems kind of, if there's anything really fantastical about this movie, it's that. I'm just kidding. No, but like, it's just, you know what I mean. Nevertheless, I love this movie and I hope that everybody else loved it as well. Especially the people who have watched the original and just watched this movie like, it's not the same, you know? If there is one lesson that I want to emphasize here is that we really don't have to use the past as a main criteria for what we love now. Indeed, I think we are risking some bitterness in ourselves if we're doing that. And we're not just talking about movies here. Like any really form of entertainment, we have that tendency to do that kind of comparison. And that's not always the greatest thing to do. Me personally, I'm a big fan of soccer. And I'm honestly sad that Gareth Bale, I'm pretty sure, I think he retired now, and Ronaldo, he's not really on the spotlight anymore. And that's upsetting, you know? But if I were to keep in mind how they played and always compare them to the new greats in my own time, then I think I would just have a much worse experience. But the truth is, Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. and I can't believe I forgot the other guy's name. What? I guess I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but these new great players, I feel like I wouldn't enjoy them as much if I just kept comparing them to the other players that I used to like. The truth is, we really need to keep in mind that maxim that says comparison is the thief of joy. We don't always have to look back, reflect on the past, and use that to judge whether or not what we have now is good. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below. Tell me what you liked about this movie or what you didn't like. That's all I have to say. Have a good one.